President. Pangalawang beses ko pong nagse-celebrate ng birthday dito sa Barmm. In 2019, habang nasa gitna po kami ng aming trabaho for Marawi Rehabilitation, I also celebrated my birthday in Marawi. So ngayon po, nandito ako sa Darapanan, and I am so honored to be with you. When I was a member of the 16th Congress of the Philippines, I was co-author of the original version of the Bangsamoro Basic Law and was actively involved during the committee hearings and congressional deliberations. Our legislative intent at that time was the passage of an enabling law that will be faithful, compliant, and consistent with a comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro. It is important to emphasize the fact that the peace agreement can only be successfully implemented and completed if there is a good partnership between the national needs to be constantly cultivated and strengthened because the peace agreement cannot be implemented unilaterally. Critical to the success of the extended transition period in the Barmm is the continuity of support of who will be elected as next president. What I can assure the Bangsamoro people is that a Robredo presidency will be a friend and supporter of the Bangsamoro and a champion of the peace process. My track record as Vice President is my assurance that I will fulfill my commitments. My friendship and support to the Bangsamoro people have been consistent in the 6 years that I was Vice President. Madalas po ako dito sa Barmm. In the 6 years that I was Vice President, parang eto pong Barmm ang pinakamadalas kong bisitahin. Dahil po sa napakaraming programa namin dito. Hindi ko na po iisa-isahin yung mga programa, but we have a lot of programs in Lanao del Sur, we have programs in Maguindanao, we have programs in Basilan, we have programs in Sulu, we have programs in Tawi-Tawi. Bawat sakuna na nangyayari, nandito po ang Office of the Vice President. Nung nangyari yung Marawi Siege, in the middle of the siege, nandito na po kami sa Lanao del Sur, tumutulong. Ang amin po mga programa, iba-iba. Halimbawa po, after the siege, nagkaroon po tayo ng mga pabahay para sa mga IDPs ng Marawi. Yung pabahay po nandun sa Area 7 ng Barangay Sagungsongan na binabalik-balikan natin. Halos karamihan sa mga munisipyo ng Lanao del Sur, bumaba po tayo ng mga proyekto. Dito po sa Maguindanao, bumaba tayo ng mga proyekto. Nag-arrange po yung mga proyekto sa mga sustainable livelihood and training programs, programs on education, health, and social development, mga programa para maibsa. Po sa Sulu, nagpalagay po tayong footbridge para i-connect yung mga isla sa mainland. Halimbawa sa Basilan, nagpagawa po tayo ng weaving center para sa mga weavers para maprotektahan ang kanilang hanap buhay. Nagpatayo po tayo ng mga eskwelahan sa Marawi right after the siege. Meron tayong feeding programs, meron po tayong mga programa para sa out-of-school youth, iba-iba. At yun po yung pagpapakita namin ng pagmamahal namin sa Bangsamoro people. As Vice President, and if I will be given the chance to be your future President, I commit to the Bangsamoro people the following platform of actions to complete the implementation of the peace agreement and address the remaining gaps in the Bangsamoro transition period. Number 1, hasten the implementation of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro, including the political track and the normalization track. On the aspect of normalization, we will formulate a mutually acceptable roadmap for normalization and guarantee the provision of adequate funding, particularly on the camp's transformation and development and socio-economic package for the decommissioned combatants. The rehabilitation of poverty-stricken communities and the vulnerable sectors will be promptly attended, and we will sincerely support the continued operations of the peace mechanisms, including those for ceasefire and normalization. We also commit to be faithful to the implementation of the Annex on Normalization on the matters of the disbandment of private armed groups and the gradual and commensurate redeployment of the armed forces of the Philippines. Number 2, to fully implement provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law and continue the momentum of the Intergovernmental Relations Body in due regard and recognition of genuine autonomy. We will sustain the gains of the smooth relations between the national government and the Bangsamoro government at the level of the Intergovernmental Relations Body and ensure that the remaining implementable provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law are fulfilled. Number 3, include the immediate passage of the Transitional Justice Bill. As we move towards peace, we need to deal with the past and recognize and acknowledge the injustices fought by the Bangsamoro. Without this recognition and acknowledgement, we cannot move forward as a nation. Number 4, activate the Amnesty Commission and fast-track the appointment of its members. As we collectively work on national healing and reconciliation, I will use my powers with utmost prudence and discretion on granting amnesty following stringent procedures to all qualified MILF members and supporters and those who were involved in the armed conflict. Number 5, now. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Please be assured of my friendship and 100% support. Mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Maraming salamat po sa ating pong susunod